Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to our wonderful movie podcast. Uh, Today we're
Hello.
watching. We watched, like you watched, and I rewatched a very special movie. Um, do you want to name the wonderful movie we've watched?
It is called It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. Actually, I just lied a bit when I said that we rewatched it, like that I rewatched it today. I didn't. I watched it 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I've watched it many times, so I kind of I'll be able to talk about it. And you watched it for the
Yep.
first time
I
today. Is
have the
that correct,
DVD
Malachi?
right in front of me. Literally right in front of me, and I just watched it.
Yeah, that is very good.
You'd be
And
able to see it if I
yeah,
had my
I don't know.
camera on.
It was the first time for you watching this, wasn't it?
Yep, never seen it in my life.
Yeah.
Never seen
Because
it in my
actually, when I watched
wonderful
it for the
life.
yeah, when I watched it for the first time, I I realized that I've watched it before. That sometimes happens, when you watch a movie and then you see different images and you're like, oh, I think I've seen that before sometime. And I realized that I watched it before, and then I asked my mother, and she said, yeah, I showed it to you when you were like 8, but then you just got so bored halfway through that you stopped it. And then you said like,
That's actually
I'll go
quite
away now. I
interesting.
can't finish it, and that apparently was the case. However, the first time I watched it when I was like 8, as I said, apparently I did state that it was so boring, but I also really liked the scenes which I can remember because every now and then before I rewatched it again like last year for the first time, I looked at the movie and I thought about it. No, I didn't look at it, but I thought about it, and then and that was and I thought about these different moments which I can remember, and I didn't know where they came from, of course, and I had positive remembrance. So it's a bit weird. I didn't like it at
Hmm.
the time, but I remembered really positively. Isn't that weird?
It's interesting is that actually 8-year-old you seems to be quite similar to me. As I don't know if I should get into this now or later, but I probably would have just stopped watching it halfway through if I wasn't actually going to record the podcast because I was really bored.
Well, I can't. When I rewatched it for the first time again last year, actually, to be fair, I watched it for the first time then. I absolutely I absolutely loved
Hmm.
literally every second of it. I loved every second of it.
But like
Um,
after I took a break in the middle, and after I came back, I kind of started to get more into it and enjoy the movie more, and I really liked the ending.
yeah, the ending is really
Spoiler
good.
warning!
Sorry?
Spoiler
Yeah, we
warning!
should probably
There
get
is an
into
ending
spoiler
to the
warning.
movie.
I should we do like last wonderful movie podcast, which everyone should absolutely check out. It's on a very classic,
Hmm.
great movie
Oh
called
yeah,
Dial
yeah.
M for Murder.
And
It's a
guys,
wonderful
remember,
podcast. You should definitely listen to it.
remember to
But
hit the like button, smash subscribe, hit the bell, notification bell, turn on all notifications so you can get
yeah.
everything
If you're
from
listening to
us.
this on whatever other platform, like non-YouTube platforms, also hit the like button and hit whatever buttons there are,
Hmm.
except for dislike buttons, and it's absolutely great. Anyway, so yeah. Should we? As I wanted to ask, should we like do a huge summary again, or should we just kind of like say our thoughts? Because I think I've got quite a lot of thoughts, so this will
I
take.
think a summary of like the 2 hour long movie is going to be quite long.
Yeah, I
It might
fully
be
agree
better
with
if we
you.
have a slightly shorter podcast. I don't know. That's
So
that's
just
editing
like
for
before
you.
you start watching this pod, or before you like continue, there we go. Continue listening to this podcast. You see correct English and correct everything. Uh, you make sure to watch the movie.
Yeah, you can see up on the screen right now a spoiler warning. Right now, up on the
Okay, so I'll
screen.
have to edit in a spoiler warning. That's like
Up on the
I,
screen
I
right
edited
now.
I edited this time. You're like,
A nice, big, massive spoiler warning.
like in 2 minutes, you're like, and you're gonna see a big UFO flying through the screen now.
Oh
And
yeah,
now you're gonna
yeah.
see
Of
this and
course,
that.
a UFO. Oh, look at it go.
Anyway,
Ooh.
okay. Uh, yeah. Do you want to start talking about it? Like, whatever thought you have. Like,
Okay, so
what was the opening scene? Oh yeah, the opening scene.
I cannot
Do you
remember.
want to talk about the opening
I
scene?
can't
Or do you
actually
want?
remember it. No, actually, I remember vaguely because I saw the opening. I remember seeing a bell at the opening screen and a bell at the ending screen because
Yes,
I accidentally
and
started
this is
watching it
something
again.
that Frank Capra did in basically every single one of his movies, at least for the closing screen. Okay, maybe not every one of his movies, but like so many of his films end with just church bells, or like whatever
Mm.
bells they are. But
And
look
also,
like
every single time I learned this, I've never heard this before, but every single time a bell rings, an angel gets their wings.
yeah, every single time. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Um, uh,
Wait, is that actually true? Does that happen in real life? Is that part of
of
Christianity?
course it does. Of course it does. Yeah. Anyway,
Huh.
so the opening scene essentially is you see you see loads of people. You see snow. You see Bedford Falls. sign of a town, and you see people praying for this guy called George Bailey. I'm beginning to do
Oh yeah,
summary. Am I not? But anyway, I just want to
yeah.
talk about the opening scene. You
It's
see people
like
pray
it's
for
like
George
the
Bailey, like,
whole the
please
whole
help
oh
me.
yeah, the whole movie's kind of like a flashback up to that point, isn't it?
That is correct. It is a flashback up to
It's
this
so
point.
interesting. I didn't even realize that until now. Huh. No, I kind of
And then
realized it, but I didn't
and
really
then you
think
see this
about it.
absolutely phenomenal scene. Sorry, I just completely interrupted you, but I have to speak about this absolutely phenomenal scene. It is it and I don't know, like it's basically you see the Earth, and then the camera goes past the Earth, and then you see like some galaxy systems, and you see like Joseph talking to, I don't know, God, and then to an angel or something like that, and then you can see them like talking, and you can see bright lights behind the galaxies. It's so extremely cheesy, and
Mm.
it is. People nowadays were probably like, what on earth is this? In fact, we have a classmate, who watched this movie. The first time we tried to watch it, just like immediately stopped, and I don't blame him at all.
Mm.
Like after
I
the
definitely
titles,
don't
like
blame
he just
him.
stopped because he was like, no, I'm not going to watch this stupid stuff. I assume, and I'm not
Oh,
blaming him because
I,
it is.
I I was actually confused when I saw that scene because everything was in black and white and kind of blurry, and I was like, "Is this Earth? It doesn't look blue." I didn't really know what was
Why is it
going on.
blue?
Well, Earth is mostly blue. Most of the Earth is water. Anyway, yeah.
But you should have noticed that it's a black and white movie. Oh yeah, it's like your
Well, yeah,
first
I
black and white.
noticed it's a black and white movie.
Wait, so is this
It's
like
not.
your first black and white movie of all time?
No, I watched Charlie Chaplin, The Kid.
I see, I see.
Yeah.
So wait, were you not like the Earth's supposed to be blue? Wait, why?
Well,
Why did you?
no, because like, it was hard to recognize what it was. It was just like a circle with like
Oh, I
slots
see.
on it.
Well,
Like
I understand.
I realized after after like a
Did you watch
second,
it
but
like you watched it? I don't know. On what kind of a screen did you watch it? Did you watch it on your phone or something?
yeah, I watched it on like a miniature Raspberry Pi screen. Like it's got 8 by 8 pixels, pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Well, no. In all seriousness, I assume you watched it on your laptop, didn't you?
yeah, I watched it
Yeah.
like on a slightly bigger monitor attached to my laptop.
I see. Yeah. You always do like the most complicated stuff ever. Anyway, um, yeah. So anyway, I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. Every time I'm smiling so much every time when I watch that scene because it's just kind of
A,
sweet the way they
a bit
talk to each
cheesy.
other, and then you see this flashback, and you were completely right, and you can see this, just like, can you see George now? Can you see this is him, or can you see something now? And then the angel called Clarence, is like, oh, I can't see anything. It's all blurry. Can you see him now? Oh yeah, I can see him now. Yeah. So it's kind of. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I
Anyway, we
remember.
should probably.
He couldn't see it because he didn't have his wings. You see, as
Yeah.
won the pop quiz in the movie I watched like 10 minutes ago.
Sorry.
I won the pop quiz on the movie that I watched 10 minutes ago.
The pop. I don't understand. What
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But,
Explain
yeah,
to our wonderful listeners, what does a popped quiz mean?
a pop quiz, like
Wait, what is a pop quiz? That
it's
was
like it's like a miniature quiz. Yeah.
I see. I see. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I did a quiz on it lately too, and I think I won it. Yeah. I won it. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I think I got 9 out of 10. So.
I was using it more in a metaphorical sense, but sure.
Oh, I actually did a literal quiz. I'm much
Uh,
more straightforward, precise, and literal person than you. Anyway, so
sure.
yeah, let's just kind of talk about different moments because we're like already like 2 minutes into the movie and 20 minutes into the podcast, and that's
Yeah.
very bad sign.
Well, definitely for me, I probably shouldn't have done this. You'll probably be slightly annoyed, but I took a break in the middle and just went and had my lunch.
Well, that it's fine. It's fine. Look, I wouldn't have taken a break in the middle. I genuinely don't do that, but it's a 2 hour and 10 minute movie, so taking a break is definitely like if it's like a 1 hour movie, then it's kind of a bit weird if you take a break in the middle. But 2 hour 10 minute movie, totally fair.
I probably would take a break in the middle for a 1 hour movie, though.
I don't think I've ever watched it in one go though. I also always take breaks, not because of myself, but because people I watch it with. For example, I watched it once with my mother, and then my mother spilled a glass of wine or something, and then we took a break. Anyway,
But yeah, I really found like the bits like I took a break halfway through, as that's like the logical place to like take a break. And like I found like the bits before that point, I kind of was a bit bored for most of it. Like there were
Yeah.
some interesting parts, but mostly I was like kind of just didn't really see the point, didn't really see the plot or anything much like that.
yeah.
And how it was progressing. But then as things kind of started to come together, especially in the end, I definitely thought it worked really well. But
Yeah, in
I
fact, the truth is that the actual book or the booklet, it was like a small text the book was actually based on. It only focused on the second half. So again, like massive spoilers because I'm basically gonna spoil the movie now. Essentially,
Mm.
this angel is sent down to Earth to help George Bailey to stop committing suicide, essentially. Um, and then he basically shows him what the world would be like if he hadn't been born. So it's kind of like
Mm.
classic fairy tale in a bit of a modern sense, I suppose. And that was what the book was about. Like the text just starts there and then it ends in the end. Now the director Frank Capra could have just done that. He could have just shown that starting there, helping him, and then could have done that. However, and here's something that I've noticed. The movie wouldn't work that well then because you don't connect with the character that much. If you see the character grow up from childhood onwards, and then you're like already like really attached to the character. At least I am. I don't know. I don't know about you, but
Mm.
you're really connected to him. Meaning, at the point where he's actually trying to commit suicide, you really care about him rather than just seeing like a random man whom you've seen for the first time trying to commit suicide. Like you don't care about him, but you do care about the person you actually know.
Well, I mean, for me, on the one hand, yes, I definitely knew him a lot better and therefore cared about him a lot
Yeah,
more. But on the other hand, I was also like so bored at the first half. There's like, do I really have to keep watching this and actually start the movie again? I'm glad I did, but like,
I think that is a you thing. Anyway,
no, I found it actually. I found the
no,
second
no,
half
you're not
like
the only
really.
one.
The first half. Yeah.
I've seen people give negative reviews to this and say, "I just watched the first half of this movie and it's ridiculous. I stopped then." Yeah. Okay, I'll just start again with my entire story now. I don't know whether I'm going to edit it or whether I'm not going to edit it, but essentially, I once watched the movie with a friend, and then the friend had to leave halfway through. I finished the movie that day, but then like a week later, I finished with a friend again, only the second half. And that second half, while it was still very effective, it wasn't as effective as it normally is. Okay? Uh, for instance, when I watched it all in one go, I don't cry, like I don't full on cry, but like my eyes get extremely watery every single time, like throughout the entire second half essentially. But um when you just start in the middle of it, like after you know that doesn't happen to me. And I think that is a clear symptom of not having character development attached to you. You know what I mean?
Mm. I think do we want to start talking about the first half, maybe like our thoughts about that, and then go on to the second half?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about the first half.
As I think the first half really like showed how like built up like a sad case, I guess, to the main character to
Yes.
some extent, like because so many things has been like bad for him, gone wrong, kind of, as he was originally obviously planning to go off overseas
Yeah.
to like Europe or America or somewhere, I can't remember. But then that
Yeah.
doesn't work out because his father dies, and then he has to go and inherit the company, and he has to keep hold of the company, and he can't go off to college.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes us feel a bit bad for him. I think that definitely helps. Oh yeah, one part that I found a bit weird though was like, remember the bit when like the main guy James Stewart and like his future wife, can't remember her name.
George Bailey and Mary, like played by Donna Reed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Bailey, future Bailey, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. So when they're walking, like I found it a bit weird the scene where like the bathrobe comes off and like chucks it,
That
like
was
steals it. I didn't really like that very much.
I know. I was
That
like
was quite
when I watched
bad.
the movie and I recommended it to you. I knew that you're not gonna like that scene because I don't know. I love it though. It's so funny though. And
Didn't you love it?
and then she's like
But that
in
was
and
I
then
don't
she's like
I really that
stuck
made
in a
me feel
plant or something, saying like, or not stuck in it, but she doesn't want to. Of course, she's like half naked or something, and she's like,
yeah, no,
I'm gonna call the
that's
police." So,
that's
well,
weird.
you're like, well, that's down the street. You're not gonna get there. Well, I'm gonna call whatever. Oh no, that's like cross the whatever.
Like I didn't like it very much. No,
I
seemed like
actually
he
love
was kind
every
of seemed
scene.
like he was kind of taking advantage of her. I don't know.
He's not taking advantage. Yeah, he's not taking advantage of it. He's just having a bit of fun with his would be lover. Anyway, um,
If you say so,
yeah,
I
and
would
then
agree.
essentially from
But
this really comedic scene, it just cuts to this really sad scene of his father dying or getting a stroke and then dying. Um,
mm,
yeah, getting
I
a stroke.
guess I guess for me, like the first half didn't really hit as well for me because like on
As
the
I
one
said,
hand, I just didn't really like the romance parts so much, at least in the first half. I think it definitely works well with the movie, especially when you get to the second half. How many times have they said first and second half? Oh well. But in the second
I'm
section,
not going to count it during the editing if you in case
you can see a number on the screen right now.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
No, no. I think it definitely is important to the plot, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of pandering to the audience of the time and not really so much to me.
Oh yeah, I suppose that is true. That would definitely, because basically every single romantic comedy back then was the first half of that movie. Seriously, there are so many romantic comedies that are just like showing a person's life. Um, you know, like the first half of that movie.
Was this a romantic comedy? Is it a rom com?
I would
Didn't it?
argue it is the first half of it. It's not really a comedy. Like
Yeah, it
if
was
you're gonna
kind of just
I
more
think
like
a
a
comedy has to have
romantic.
like a comedy has to have like a ground level of laughs, ground level of like comedic moments. And this one has its comedic moments, definitely does. But uh, a lot of it is just like a drama. So,
Mm.
according to IMDb, it is not a comedy. But I suppose a case could be made that it is a comedy.
Well,
Because
I guess it has some. I wouldn't call it a comedy, but it has some comedic moments again. No, I just didn't like that bush scene. Very weird.
I really liked it though.
I think we
Anyway.
should cancel Frank Capra.
No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. I really like the scene. It's just it's a funny scene.
But
Anyway,
apart from that, yeah,
there's my favorite scene is also in the first half, and it is a scene involving a dance, a Charleston dance, and
Charleston.
this scene is one of my favorite scenes for two reasons. First of all,
They
like
fall in a
it's
swimming
awesome.
pool.
Essentially, there's loads of people dancing, and then under the dance floor there's a pool, and then the dance floor opens, and the two main characters are almost falling into the pool 20 times, and everybody's screaming about it, and they're like, no, don't. Like, some of them are screaming, no, don't, and some of them are just screaming or something, and then in the end they actually fall in, and then the cutest part is when they're actually continuing to dance while they're in the water. It's so sweet. And
Yeah, that was nice.
the second reason why I absolutely love this scene is because it's just nostalgia. That's one of two scenes that I remember, like one of two or three scenes which I
Nostalgia.
actually,
Yes, you're remembering back to the good old days where everybody used to dance Charleston and stuff.
no, which
Yeah,
which I
nostalgia. How
remember from
sorry?
like when I
How
was
old are
8.
you again?
Which I remember from when I was 8, and
Okay.
so that's why I really really like the scene. It's just an all around fantastic scene. Yeah, I like it. Just like it, and like it's one of these nuances. I don't know whether you noticed, but while they were essentially almost falling into the pool, everybody around them was like screaming. Of course, you noticed that, but then
Mhm.
you can see George like telling to Mary, "Oh, Mary, we must be really good."
Yeah, I noticed that.
That was
Everybody else was just had stopped and just started watching them. They were just facing the wrong direction. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah.
it's normal. Everybody just stares at us normally. That's a normal thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, normally, like in those movies back then, if there's like a dance scene and one couple is really, really good, then everybody also stands around them and I don't know, cheers and screams because they're like probably
I
so.
would not know that. I do not watch movies like this.
Yeah, well, I do, and I'm telling you. But
Okay.
he's like, we must be really good. They're all cheering for us, but no, 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 they're cheering for you. Jump into the water, and there's also this really sweet moment where the headmaster or something is saying, "Get out of there! Get out of there!" I don't know how that's supposed to work. Like, they're all in the pool under the dance floor. They're not gonna, get out of there, but get out of there, get out of there. And then he just jumps in himself.
Yeah, that's definitely quite funny.
And also there's
Oh.
like I wanted to say something. Oh yeah, the fact that all of those dresses and all of those suits and everything are completely ruined for the rest of ever.
Yeah,
They're like
I was thinking about that. Like, I was thinking definitely.
they're all ruined. They're all
Yeah, they're
ruined.
all going to be ruined. It's kind of like, oh, that's funny. Oh no, the suits. No, no. Why are they doing this? No.
Yeah. And then yeah, but like it's just that's one of the best moments in the movie. It's not the most emotional moment. The last scene is the most emotional scene, or like the second half basically is the most emotional part. But that scene is just my favorite scene, hands down. It's just I love it. I love it.
Mm. I
Yeah.
think definitely my favorite part was probably that second to last scene. It's like where they're all giving the money to him. Like, it's all kind of ending off happily to some extent. I feel like
That
it
is
definitely
the
built up
last
to it, and he definitely deserved it.
that is the
Or was
last
that?
scene.
I thought the last scene was the bell ringing.
Oh well, I wouldn't call it a scene. It's just like the end. Like
True.
okay, well you can call it a scene. I don't know. You can call it a scene if you insist. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say and speak about involving the first half? Like if you don't think of anything, I'm gonna in 10 minutes. I'm like,
Oh wait,
oh, by the way,
I read something very interesting.
yeah,
What is it? In the scene where they were throwing like like bricks, rocks at like the house, right? The old house that they were going to move into.
yeah,
Yeah, supposedly like they hired like somebody to go and shoot the window for when
yeah,
Donna Reed was throwing
yeah,
the rock, but she actually just went and hit it through herself.
yeah. First time, like first take, and she just
Yeah,
hits it. Yeah, yeah. I've read that too. Or like I don't know, I heard of that some time. Yeah,
pretty impressive.
good point. Yeah, that is pretty cool. And also the fact that they, look at that old house and then they actually move into the house afterwards.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It was also interesting to see it go back to its old state, like in like the what did you call it when like he kind of stopped existing,
Well,
like
in the
transition.
alternate universe, that's what I would call it.
Old, yeah, in the alternate universe. Like it was
Yeah.
interesting to see it go back to its old state. And that
Yeah.
moves swiftly on to the second half, and you can see massive
Yeah.
titles on the
I
screen
want
right
to.
now saying second half.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, and then there was like also in the first half. I want to. Sorry, but there was one scene where years later, she essentially Donna Reed's character Mary, she invites George Bailey to her house,
Hmm.
or like kind of semi invites. It was like it was kind of a bit of a misunderstanding and everything, but then he's just like really in a kind of a bad mood or like in an okay mood, and she's like she wants to like I don't know
I didn't really fully understand that scene, honestly.
revitalize the romance or something, and he's just kind of like in a neutral to bad mood. And then she buys the song that they used to sing all the time on a disc, how do you call it, on a vinyl,
Record,
on a
vinyl,
record,
yeah.
and then you see her drawing an image. George lassos the moon, which is one of the things that they say in the set in the beginning, and then she basically like tries to like really revitalize the romance and everything, and then he comes in. It's just like not knowing what he's supposed to do there, and then she's putting on the movie, the music, and showing him the image, and he's like, "What on earth is that? Can't you just stop that stupid music and everything?" Like I don't know, like he's just
Yeah, I didn't really know what was meant to be happening there. I just felt kind of confused. I don't know.
well, she was trying to revitalize the romance and it
Well,
didn't
yeah,
work.
but like, why was he like so grumpy?
I forgot what happened. You watched it today. What happened before that? Like,
What
was
happened
he?
before that? Like, oh yeah, his brother comes back and like,
Oh
his brother
yeah,
has a wife now and like stuff. And,
and now the brother has to work at
oh yeah,
the
the glass
company of
factory,
the
wasn't
wife's
it?
father, which means that George Bailey can't go to university um because the
Yeah,
idea
because he
was
has
that
to keep hold of like the business and keep running
yeah,
it because
because
his
his
brother's
brother's not
gone
going to
off
do that
to
now. So
work at
he's
the
in a
glass
really bad
factory.
mood because basically his entire life is crumbling together now. Like all the plans he had is just completely getting destroyed,
Yeah,
and that's basically what the movie is about. Like this man who's constantly postponing his life, who's constantly like destroying all of his plans to help his community. There's this one scene when they're getting married, and they've got like this money, and for the first time, he's going to go out and see the world, as he says it. He's going to see the world, and then the bank he works at, building and loan, is kind of like is going bankrupt because for some random reason I forgot what it was. Or there's some form of a scandal, and then he has to use that money in order to kind of save the bank and not give Mr. Potter,
mm.
the movie villain, a monopoly.
It was because like the actual Mr. Potter's banks had closed down, so they wanted to go and take back their loans early that they'd taken from him. And
Yeah.
also, they're going back to the other scene. I didn't understand though why he said like I never want to be married or whatever.
When did
Do
he
you
say
remember
that?
that? Like back at the scene where like with the scene where
Oh
they were in the
yeah,
house
yeah.
and stuff. Didn't really
Well, he
understand
was
that
just in a
part.
bad mood, and like they were like, "You should get married, and you should go to this, and you should go and do that, and you should work at this company, you should invest in this plastic stuff." And he's like, "I don't want to invest in plastic. I don't want to work there. I don't want to do this, and I don't want to get married." I think it was just like, "I don't want to do your stupid suggestions."
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. I don't think he meant it as a general rule of thumb, obviously, because
Well, I
two
mean,
scenes later he's getting married.
well, I mean, it would be a fine rule of thumb in my idea, but yeah. Anyway, anything else
Something
to
else I
mention
have
in
to
the
edit
first
out of
part?
the podcast.
Anything else to mention on the first part?
No, I don't think so. I'll just type in my password because for some reason I. Okay. Anyway, no. Let's get to the second half, and it's your turn to speak.
Second half, giant text coming onto the screen. Brilliant editing.
Yeah, like some wonderful fireworks in the background with some
Yeah,
green
exactly.
screen
You're
technique.
trying to make it harder for yourself.
No, you're just gonna see a black screen. I don't know.
Okay. So what did happen in the second half? So yeah, basically in the
When did you
second
take the
half,
pause?
I took the pause. That's a good question. I took it like straight in the middle. So I think I took it right before like they were about to go off on their honeymoon, just before that, maybe. I'm not sure. Is that in the middle?
That is like more in the beginning, but okay, yeah.
Wait,
Go
let me check. I'll go and like boot up the good
Oh
old
my
disk and then
God.
see. I'll-
It's like I don't
don't
know.
worry, this will all be edited out by a
If
amazing
you're watching
editor.
this in triple speed, it still might take like 3 minutes until this.
Wait, I think I stopped it. I stopped it like just before he was giving like the welcome home speech thing. I think
I
that's
see.
about
I
where I
see.
stopped it.
I
I don't
see.
know. I don't really remember how far through that was though. What happened
Welcome.
after that? Anyway, yeah, that's about where I stopped it.
Oh, welcome home. When he said that to the family, he gave a
Yeah,
hug.
and then he like the weird guy who goes like the ha thing.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I forgot what that was.
I have
I
no.
remember that was in the movie, but I forgot what it was. Anyway,
Like he comes and turns up and like, yeah,
oh,
something
like his
something like
brother, I
that.
think.
Was that his brother?
I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. Let's start with the second half.
Yes, the second half. You can start.
Okay, well, I'll start then. We edited it in a way when I was just like 1 second ago. I said you can start the second half.
No,
Now I just
I
cut
don't
you. Now you're
remember.
like,
I don't remember.
okay, well, I'll start then. Okay. Um, Essentially, Uncle Billy, who is an employee at the building and loans company, is like, oh my goodness, he's kind of a bit of a senile guy and
Oh yeah.
misplaces the
I
money.
remember it now. Okay, so
Misplaces the
to
money.
start the second half, Uncle Billy, who works at like the loans company, building and loans company, he like goes to the actual main bank and he was going to deposit some money into the bank and he has it in a letter with his newspaper.
Yeah,
And so, but he goes and shows like the newspaper to Mr. Potter to go and point out that Harry, the main guy's brother, he's like being awarded medals and stuff. And like
yeah,
he gives him the newspaper, and so he like mislays the money for the loans
yes.
company, and that causes like very bad things to happen.
And of
It's like
course, like,
someone.
if we're gonna point to people who say whose fault is it, like, I kind of, I kind of can't stop help feeling that Uncle Billy is kind of a bit senile in that scene. Like who just puts 9,000, like that is kind of a bit of a dumb move. But like
Well, I
Miss,
mean, also
Un-
stealing the
Miss,
money from him though.
Mr.
Generally,
Potter, well, he didn't like, it wasn't an act of stealing, but the fact that he didn't return it, that's just so extremely horrible. Like,
well, yeah,
you
that's
really
steal.
begin to hate him at that point. You really begin to
Yeah,
hate him at that point. Like I already hated him before that, but like he's really at that point. Like, why don't you give it back to him? And then there's also this like slightly comedic moment where he goes to the bank and is like, "I want to do a deposit," and the person sitting behind the bank, "Oh, well, Mister, isn't there something missing here?" Well, no. What's missing? Well, usually when people come to the bank to make a deposit, they kind of bring the money with them. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. And
But
like
then, like,
this,
Uncle Billy is kind of senile in the sense that for the next 5 or 10 minutes of the runtime, like, which is an actual life, like quite a lot, like hours, he's looking for the money and he just doesn't think of, and he can't remember that he spoke to Mr. Potter. Like, how?
I mean, like he was looking at the money inside of the bank, so it's kind of is a bit dumb, but same
Yeah,
time, Mr. Potter should have given it back.
yeah. Well, of course
Like
he should have
that is
back, but
kind of like
Mr.
stealing
Potter
at
is
that
a
point, I
bad
think.
guy. Um. Anyway, and then James Stewart begins to like, he's like in a really really good mood. The bank examiner is currently there at the building and loans company, and then James Stewart is like giving loans out to like childhood friends, like, oh, I'm gonna give you this, you're gonna need it, and I'm gonna give you that, and like he's giving out loans. He's in really good mood, and then he's having a telephone, and then you can see the Uncle Billy just rushing in, looking for the money, you know,
Hmm.
saying congratulations to George Bailey's brother on the telephone for like 1 second, saying, I'm gonna go away now, bye, and actually hanging up the phone. Uh, then he's looking for it and he's looking for it, and then when James Stewart comes into that room, the entire room is like completely messed up and everything's like on the floor and like, under the pile of paper you can see Uncle Billy looking for the money. That's visual
Yeah.
storytelling. That's really well made.
I agree. I don't really have much else to add. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, did you realize that this black bird, the raven or whatever it was,
Oh yeah.
you can always see the raven when the bank is about to get bankrupt, like turn bankrupt?
I thought a raven was just always in the bank.
Well, it was, but like you can see the raven. Like Frank Capra shows the black raven when things are about to turn bad. Like
Is this
that's what he
a
does.
metaphor?
I
Is this a
assume so.
symbol?
I assume so.
I don't know what it is for, but like,
I assume so. Well, well, yeah. And by the way, this Black Raven was always in all Frank Capra films, basically from, I believe, from Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, or maybe even earlier than that. He always put it into every one of his films. Yeah.
huh? Okay.
Yeah, that was
Interesting.
like a bit
Maybe
of
he was like
cameo.
maybe the raven was to Frank Capra what the blonde was to Alfred Hitchcock.
Well, or what the Hitchcock cameo was the, to Hitchcock.
Sure, that too.
Yeah, Frank Capra also had like his style. He always had like the slight comedic style. Anyway, back to the second half. Anyway,
Yeah. Oh wait, I wanted to ask. I was looking on like IMDb, right?
yes.
And like this movie is listed twice, and there's like one that came out slightly earlier, but with like the same main
Oh,
app.
It's a Wonderful World. You mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, is that similar? Has it got anything
Well,
to
it's
do
also
with
with Jimmy Stewart and it's also with Frank Capra, but it's just like a different movie with a very similar title.
it?
I haven't watched it, but from what I've heard, it's not supposed to be as good. I don't think it's going to be as good. Uh,
Okay, I was just
yeah,
wondering because I guess I didn't read the title properly.
you didn't.
Okay.
I know you didn't read the title properly. Like, guess what? Anyway, he watched the and then he and then so many bad things happen. You can see James Stewart gives a tremendous performance. Let me just speak about James Stewart. He gives my all-time favorite performance in this movie. Seriously, out of according to Letterboxd, out of the 530 something or 540 something movies I've watched, this is my favorite performance, which I can name. He gives such a good performance. Seriously, like wow, and and then when he gets really angry at Uncle Billy, he kind of kicks the chair just as he exits the screen, and that was just like one of those moments where I'm just
And you
so
can it's kind of like quite sad for us to see Uncle Billy start crying.
yeah. I mean, look, I would be really angry with Uncle Billy too if I were in James Stewart's place. Probably isn't
Yeah,
very smart, but
I mean, like
at the point where I'm like, I'm never gonna get that back, and he says like it's gonna mean bankruptcy and jail and everything.
but he says that he's going to go to jail, like Uncle Billy when he
Yeah. Like one of us is gonna go to jail, and it's not me. And then a couple of scenes later, when he goes to Mr. Potter, like actually one scene later, when he goes to Mr. Potter, he's like, I misplaced the money. So he doesn't even want to point to other people. He just wants to take the what how you call it? He just
take
wants
the
to
blame
say that
himself. Yeah,
he committed the like
he takes the blame himself.
yeah.
For,
Oh
like,
yeah, there you go. That's what I
everything.
wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's one of the greatest lines. Like seriously, when Mr. Potter is like, oh, well, do you have any form of like insurance, or do you have anything which I can actually have to make sure that you're gonna pay me back? And then he says, I've got my life insurance. You can have that, and that's just $500. And then Mr. Potter's like, wait, so I'm supposed to give you 8,000 for like some 500,000 life insurance? Well, you're more valuable dead than alive, or something like that.
I think
That
that
was
was
such a
definitely quite an important quote, as it's repeated later on too. But
yeah.
like, yeah, we'll get
Yeah,
there in a
well, yeah,
second.
James
Yeah.
Stewart repeats it later on, and again, that's another one of those moments where like it's just so sad. And then the next scene, Frank Capra is just doing some. I don't know how he does it, but he's absolutely brilliant. When James Stewart comes home, and then his family's really like they just finished their Christmas tree and they just did everything and everybody's really happy, and he comes home without his jacket, without his hat, kind of coughing and like in a really bad mood, understandably, and then he just begins to cry into his daughter, like, and his daughters are putting
Was
on
that
these
his
gold
daughter?
things.
I thought it was his son.
Yeah, or his son. Yeah, I forgot. And then his son like puts the gold stuff into his hair, like in a really good mood and really naive, and he's just crying to her because he just can't do anything. Yeah. Do you want to continue?
Yeah, so I mean, like, he's basically not very nice to his family. He kind of like can't remember exactly what happens, but I remember
Oh
like
yeah,
he
I can. Essentially, then he's basically saying, "Why is it so cold over here? Like, why am I living in a refrigerator?" That's one of the things I always have to laugh at. It's kind of a dull joke, but I have to
oh
laugh.
yeah, and he gets really irritated like several times by the
Yeah,
fact that
and
like the
then all the
handrail
time.
keeps like the I
Yeah.
don't know what you call it, like the knob on the staircase handrails. It
Oh
keeps
yeah.
coming off every single time he goes past, and he's getting progressively more annoyed at it
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. That is absolutely true. And there's also the little boy saying like, "How can I spell like?" And then some random words.
Frankincense, I think it was.
Sorry,
Frankincense.
frankincense.
You can see it spelled up on the screen right now.
How can I spell this? And then at one point, it's like, how am I supposed to know this? I'm not a dictionary or something. Like,
Mm,
and he's getting so angry at it. And then he goes upstairs where Zuzu is there, and she's supposed to sleep because she has a cold, but she's looking at a rose or something, a flower. And
mm.
then there's like a couple of petals coming off, and then he kind of fixes them by putting them into his pocket, but pretending to actually put them back on again. People who watch the movie will know what I mean.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
haven't watched the movie, you're really confused now.
He
Oh
just
no.
puts it in his pocket. If you haven't watched the movie, then you shouldn't be listening to this. You should go and watch it right now.
Yeah, you should. Anyway, you can seem like you know, like going telling her to go to sleep, and then he's like telling the teacher of Zuzu, like, "Who are you? What kind of a person are you? I'm paying taxes for you, and you're letting my child go out half naked and getting a cold and everything." Um,
Mm,
yeah, and then he's also shouting at Mister the husband of the teacher. Like
cannot
he's just
remember the name.
basically screaming at everybody. And then like another great part is when he like not a great part, but like another really emotional part is when he then just after all of that, everybody's looking at him, and then he just kicks about the like some
Yeah, he just like kicks about the
railway.
stuff around his desk and stuff, and like entirely destroys it, and
Yeah.
then kind of feels bad and says, "Oh
Well,
yeah,
no,
I'm
actually,
sorry.
I
Go
think it's
back."
like yeah,
He goes. He says to like he feels bad after doing that for and says, "Okay, go back to practicing. I'm sorry for what I said. Yeah, yeah, go back to practicing." Kind of like that. He's
yeah.
annoyed
And
by
then he's
it.
getting so angry at her, like, "Go back now, do it again now, be happy again, all of you." And to the point where
And she just
everybody
start
is like
like
even
the
more
child.
sad, and he
Yeah, the
just
child
leaves
just
the room.
starts crying,
Yeah,
and like
and he leaves the room, and
I remember like distinctly, he tells him like his wife, James Stewart's wife, tells him to stop tormenting the children like
yeah,
that. It like really like I just felt kind of bad for him after everything that's happening and like
yeah,
everything's just going wrong in his life to some extent, I guess.
yeah.
And that's at that point he just goes and stumbles off outside and goes down to the bar and
Martinis, yeah,
yeah,
to his friend's
martinis.
bar. And of course, the teacher he just screamed at, like the husband of the teacher he just screamed at, is also there. And then he's beginning to pray. And that's another great scene. He's beginning to pray and saying, like, "Oh God, please help me. Just this one time.
Uh,
Please
I'm
help
not
me."
sure how great a scene. Okay,
And
and
then,
he gets very drunk too. He drinks too much and like he gets punched in the face by the
well, I
husband
don't
of
think he's
the.
drinking. I don't
No,
think.
they said that he's drunk too much. I remember, and you can see that he's staggering a bit when he walks too, when he's walking towards the
I
bridge
see.
later. But like, yeah,
Anyway, well, you can see him. Well, I guess that's because he could just got punched or something. I don't know.
no,
The
he
teacher, you mean?
no. I mean, he had drunk too much. They
I,
said
I
so.
I don't think it said so. I think that's like some form of a thing got mixed up in your brain. But anyway,
No, they
um,
definitely did.
the scene is so great because you can see him just praying, saying like, "Please help me this one time," and then the camera just zooms in very, very slowly, and you can just see his amazing performance. And actually, that was a decision that Frank Capra made after he made the shot. So therefore, he actually did kind of a not a digital zoom, but he actually like zoomed in afterwards rather than actually zooming in with the camera lens, because he was like, I've got to just elevate this scene. His performance is too great to not." And I think that was a good choice, good
Mm.
directing choice.
Yeah, and after that, he goes like staggering outside as everybody's worried about him. All of his friends are saying, "Oh yeah, we won't let that man back in," even though
Yeah,
it's kind
yeah,
of
because
his
his
fault.
yeah.
And
And then he just drives his car against like the oldest tree in town or something. Uh,
yeah,
and then the owner of that tree is like very angry at him, and everybody's just angry at him. And then he almost walks over the street, and somebody almost hits him and says like, "What a kind of a person are you?" Like everybody's just kind of blaming him for everything. And then he's just standing at the bridge, and this is the turning point of the movie because up until now, this is just kind of like a classic movie, seeing a man's life getting worse and worse over time. But now you can see essentially Clarence, or we don't know that it's Clarence, but a man whom we
mm,
will learn to be Clarence afterwards, uh, looking at George, looking down the bridge, thinking of committing suicide. By the way, again, a great scene. George, like James Stewart's performance, is so good. Like I don't know what he does with his eyes. He kind of rips them open when it works. I don't know.
Wait, who was the main character of Vertigo again?
James Stewart, the same guy.
Yeah. So like he seems to like swimming a lot in his movies, doesn't he?
Swimming.
Like yeah, like James Stewart seems like jumping into water
Oh
to
yeah.
save people.
Well, if you haven't watched Vertigo, here's a huge spoiler warning. But if you have watched Vertigo, then like
Yeah.
not a spoiler
Sorry,
warning.
in Vertigo,
Yeah,
it's just like an
essentially-
interesting comparison
well-
with how he jumps into the water to save someone in Vertigo, and also in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I don't think there's any other movie where he does that. Like I can't
Oh,
think
okay.
of one, but
Like,
that these are the
practically-
2 movies that you've watched. Anyway.
Yeah. The only 2 movies I've seen of him in it has him jumping into water going swimming.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know.
But that scene is really good, by the way. Like I don't know, it just looks good. And then essentially Clarence saved his life by making him save Clarence's life, or apparently saving Clarence's life. And
And he thinks like
when
he's
did you realize that he was actually an angel? Like, what was the
Well, no,
point? where you're like-
I realized like when he was like standing on top that he was the angel that had been sent down,
when he was standing where?
like on the bridge.
I see. No, I
I
didn't
realized
realize.
like
that.
immediately.
I'm a bit slower in my brain.
I mean, like,
realized
he
when-
also then repeated like 15 times later, "Oh yes, I'm an angel. Yeah, I'm actually an angel."
Oh yeah,
so
well
came
no,
from
I
heaven."
realized it by then, but I didn't realize it when he was standing on the bridge. I realized it only when he took out his book of what was it, Tom Sawyer? No, yeah,
I
Tom
didn't even,
Sawyer.
I didn't even see the book, honestly.
Well,
I
I
saw the
saw
book,
the
I
book
didn't know what
because
it
they
was.
referenced it, and in the beginning of the movie, it's like that's his favorite book. So when I saw Tom Sawyer, I was like, that's the angel.
Yeah.
Well, that
what
was
I
the
gonna
first
say?
time
Oh
I
yeah,
watched
and like basically they're all now sitting in a room after everything's been fixed, and like
Correct.
the angel saves his life, and because he tried to save the angel's life, and like yeah, he basically just reveals he's an angel, and it all gets more and more crazy. The guy who was in there with them goes and runs off outside when like he says that.
Yeah, when he says
And,
like,
like,
the thing, like, I'm like an angel of 2nd class because I don't have wings yet.
And he thinks that he's definitely drunk too much because he's imagining an angel in front of him.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely the turning point in the movie at that point.
And there's also one part when he's like, "I'm your guardian angel," and then George Ray's like, "Well, if I had a guardian angel, it sure would look like you." Kind of.
Very true. Quite offhand
Anyway,
comment. Very
then
true.
George Bailey says like, "It probably would have been better if I'd never been born," which leads Clarence to say, "Okay, well, God,
Yeah.
make him not be born."
Yeah.
And then
Actually, a
the
bit
short
before
time-
that, he repeats for the phrase like, "I'm better off dead than alive."
yeah,
As
yeah,
that means that if he dies, he gets the insurance money, which will go and kind of like solve the problem. And so that's kind of what he's valuing more there, like kind of
Yeah,
fixing the problem above
and
his
then in
own
the
life.
short run, it actually does seem better for him that he's dead because he can hear again in his one ear, you know, he can hear again, and he can his mouth has stopped bleeding, and I suppose he doesn't have the problem with the bank insurance, so life seems
No,
better.
I mean, like he says, like before all of that, "I'm better off dead than alive."
Yeah,
That's
no,
why he
you're
wanted to
right
commit
there.
suicide. Yeah.
I just kind of jumped forward a bit.
Okay.
Everything seems better off because he doesn't have the problem with the bank. His mouth isn't bleeding, and he can hear in one ear again. So, like in the very first moment, he's like, "Oh yeah, actually, look, seems pretty cool."
Or
But
he,
then-
he doesn't realize what's happened in the very first moment. He's just
Yeah, well, he
very
doesn't
confused.
realize it basically throughout the entire thing. He's kind of
Well, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But like for that, and then for the next half hour, we basically just see how terrible everything is without him.
Yeah, and he also gets into quite a bit of trouble harassing people, knocking on random people's doors and stuff like that.
Well, not random people's doors, like his parents' doors, but
Yeah, they're
Well,
random
well,
people in that
out of their
world.
perspective, it's
Like in this alternate universe, it is random people's doors.
well, in the alternate universe, the people would think that he's a random person knocking on their door, but
Yeah.
he is walking around knocking on. Like that's how I would phrase it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I think our listeners understand what we're trying to say.
Exactly. And if they're
Um,
not, you can see text up on the screen right now explaining it fully.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
With all the dictionary definitions and a wonderful animation.
Exactly.
Well, is there anything else? Yeah, and then he just realized how everybody like his wife is kind of librarian.
Yeah, wait, they
Pretty
changed the name of the whole town. What did they change it
Oh
to?
yeah, Pottersville,
Yeah, they changed it to Pottersville.
because
and, like,
obviously Mr. Potter gets his monopoly, and it's Pottersville, and everywhere there are nightclubs rather than innocent things. At Nick's place, there's also this really cool moment where Clarence and him go into Nick's, which is supposed to be Martini's, because Martini, of course, is like not there. And
Mm.
and then they're like drinking stuff, and then Clarence at one point says like, "Well, every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings," and
hmm
then they're getting kicked out. That's it. Like, you're going out now. You're going out now. That's what Nick says, because like he just can't have these two weird people.
Well,
Which
yeah,
shows
it's
like how
kind of
terrible the town's attitude is actually. You can also see how Mr. Howard or Goward, I think, like one of the early
yeah,
like
like
characters.
the pharmacy worker who
Yeah,
like in the start, like there was this pharmacy worker guy and like his son died, and so he was all really depressed and ended up
that was
putting
actually
the wrong
also a really good
pills
part. I
into like
really
the
loved the
delivery.
beginning.
Yeah, I found that to be I was kind of confused in the start as to what was happening. I realized by the end, but like yeah, and like he accidentally
What?
gave the wrong pills to go and give to somebody. And like the only reason why he wasn't locked up in jail and everything didn't go wrong was because like the main character guy who I always keep forgetting the name of, yeah.
George
Hit
Bailey.
yeah, George like realizes, oh yeah, this is poison and kind of saves both his life
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
other
by the way, a
person's
really
life.
good scene too, because he begins to slap him and say like, "Why didn't you deliver it? Why didn't you deliver it?" And then he begins to realize how he's really how he actually like saved him from jail,
Yeah.
and and then he's beginning to like hug and everything, hug him and everything. It's really good. Anyway, yeah. So Mr. Gowd comes in, everybody's bullying him, and everything just seems so terrible. And then there's this moment when they're just leaving, and then Nick is just kind of dinging the bell and saying, "Look, I'm giving out wings to all the angels. I'm giving out wings."
I honestly don't remember that at all.
Well, that's what he
What?
does though. He kind
Oh
of like
yeah.
dings all the time. He says
Oh
like, "I'm
wait, he
giving
was
out
like
wings
mocking
to."
them. Oh yeah, he
Sorry.
was mocking like
Yeah,
Angel dude, clarinet
Clarence.
or whatever his name was.
Clarence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like you kind of just keep seeing how the world is much worse without him. The whole town's bad, and you
yeah,
also
and I
see
think
like his but you go he
yeah,
goes to actually try and find like a section of the time where he kind of helped build up the houses. I don't remember
yeah,
what it's called,
Bailey
and
Park.
mm, and to go and find like Martini, I think it was, or somebody, and it's just a graveyard now.
Yeah,
And they come up to the grave and they find the grave of his brother. And
yeah,
because he wasn't alive to save his brother, they
yeah,
see that his brother had died and hadn't been able to save all of the people in the boat. And so,
yeah,
so many people had died just due to him not existing in this world to save his brother who saved all those
yeah.
people. Like it shows
And
how
there's yeah,
terrible everything is without him.
I think that's the most emotional part of the entire Flash, like Flash, not flashback, but Flash side, kind of parallel universe thing.
Flash side, inventing new film terminology.
Yeah, but like I think that's the best part. Like that's the one part where I was like, oh no. When he's kind of beginning to dig up from the snow, beginning to dig up the date where he died, and then the camera zooms in. And then when he sees it, this camera zooms out again to say like, what is this? What is this? And that is wow, it's so good. It's not good, but like it's so
Yeah.
well made.
And like the Flash side or whatever you want to call it kind of ends with him finding his wife and like
Well,
his
it kind
wife
of ends
obviously
with him saying that he wants to live again on the bridge, and then you can see
well
in the
no, I mean
background how
like
the
I'm just
snow.
explaining like the final section. Like finds his
Yeah,
wife,
I
kind of
want to touch
chases
on that
her.
point though. You can explain the final section 1 second. He goes back to the bridge, and then snow starts to fall down again
No
when
no
he
no, I
says
mean
like,
this is before that. This is before the flashback ends. Like he finds his wife in that universe.
"Oh, oh, I
Yeah,
thought you
he
wanted to
finds
say
his
that after
wife and
that."
he like follows
Okay,
her
okay,
and
well,
like he gets into trouble.
you see,
Police is called. Police start
yeah,
shooting at him. You see, danger with
with very
guns.
bad aim.
Yeah, very bad aim, practically a stormtrooper. And like they chase after him and he runs all the way to the bridge with the police officer coming after him as he punched the police officer too.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can continue now on
Oh
your
yeah,
point.
and also when he comes to the old house, it's shot so well. Like the black and white looks so beautiful when you can kind of see like people look pointing a lamp at him, and you know what I mean? Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
It
I
looks so
remember
well.
it.
That's a clear case for me of like black and white is just better than color, which is my
Uh,
genuine opinion.
sh-
And that's just a clear example of that.
I'm not so sure about that, but go on to your point about the bridge.
Yeah. So essentially, he says he wants to live again, and snow starts falling, and then police officer actually sees him and says, "Look, George, George." So they actually know his name, and that's how George realizes that he's actually alive again, and then is happy about the fact that his mouth is bleeding. He's happy about, well,
Mm.
the fact that he can't hear again. I don't know, like a
Yeah, he like goes and sees his car's still crashed into the tree.
yeah.
He's really happy. He goes
Oh
and
yeah, and also
sees
there's this one part like where
he-
where he takes out Zuzu's pedal out of his pocket and like, look, Zuzu's pedal! Merry Christmas!
yeah, and he goes running, sprinting
Like
through the
four
streets,
police
shouting
officers.
"Merry Christmas" at everybody. He shouts "Merry Christmas" and like the antagonist guy, the evil guy, straight through the window.
Mr. Potter, yeah.
Yeah,
And
Mr. Potter.
this movie is
When he
about
get
forgiveness too. This movie is about forgiveness too.
and when he gets home, he's like excited that he's gonna get arrested or something. Like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
like,
get
isn't it
arrested. This is
wonderful? I'm
so
going to
great. Yeah.
jail.
Yeah, he's like overjoyed with the fact that like the handrail comes off now, and that his
Yeah,
like all of his like children are there. He's really happy about that and hugs
correct.
them, and is really happy about his wife being there.
Yeah,
And like it kind of all builds up to this point at the end where he's happy about this, even though he's going to go to jail now and he's accepted all of it. But then his wife also have told the town people about like the problem, and they all start coming in with money basically to
yeah,
kind of go and pay off the debt he has to pay because he's been so nice to them, done so many good things for them that they want to pay it back. And so he gets more money than he actually needs, I think, to go and pay off the
well,
debt.
yeah. He
And,
gets like he gets 20,000 from like one guy mailed in.
yeah, and basically they just go and rip up like the note to go and arrest him, like,
Yeah,
right in front of his eyes. Everybody's celebrating, their bell rings,
yeah,
and that's like Clarence getting his wings.
yeah.
I think he's done a good job. I feel like there's an Easter section.
No, you haven't.
I was going to say something else, but I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh yeah, well, George's brother comes in and says you're the richest man in town. Maybe was it that?
No, okay, it doesn't matter though. But yeah, basically.
Oh yeah, and Clarence gives him this book saying, "Remember, nobody is a failure who has friends."
I don't actually remember that section, but yeah,
Oh.
that was actually quite a very emotional scene for me. I
Oh
think.
yeah, absolutely.
Probably like the most emotional part of the film, like
Yeah,
the climax, I guess you could say at the very end.
yeah. You could. Well, anyway, yeah. I mean, I really like the ending, and I think it's probably the only Frank Capra ending which I would call perfect. Most of his other endings, like Frank Capra, by the way, is a great director. He's my fourth favorite director at the moment, like at my ever changing list, just after Stanley Kubrick, F.W. Murnau, and of course Alfred Hitchcock, the great, Sir Alfred Hitchcock, the great. Anyway, Frank Capra, I really like him, and I like everything I've seen by him so far. And most of his endings, however, always fall a bit short or like kind of are a bit too long, stretched out. I don't know. I don't like. I don't dislike any of the other endings. Like I really like Frank Capra endings, but I feel like this is the only time where he really nailed the art of directing an ending. You
I
can't say
cannot
anything there.
comment. Yeah, I
Sorry?
can't say anything. I haven't watched any other films by him, have I?
You should though. Are you interested in watching any other films by him?
I mean, it was a good film, but like I feel like it had a kind of slow start for me. My patience isn't that great. I can imagine like if one of our school friends, like Camille, was to watch this film, that'd be an entertaining thing. But I don't know. It depends. Like, are his other films like kind of the same kind of pacing as this, or?
Sorry? Well, I mean, look, you get used to that kind of pacing. You seriously get used to it. The thing is that with the like when I started watching old movies, I also was like, oh, it's black and white. I didn't like that. Oh, it's kind of
I
slow. I
didn't
don't
really
like
care.
that.
I
It's not
honestly just
action. I don't like that. But you seriously get 100% used to it. That's that it's just a fact. The more you watch of these old movies, and you just kind of get used to the fact that they're a bit slow.
I think definitely on those points for I at the start I noticed, it's black and white. That's interesting. And I just forgot about it for the whole
Yeah,
movie. Basically, I practically didn't notice.
exactly.
But for the action, I think definitely is like having been like the last couple movies I was watched being action movies. Like as we recently watched Darwin for Murder. That's quite an actiony movie. With like
What?
I think it's an actiony movie.
Darling
Right?
for Murder is all set in one apartment.
Yeah, but there's a lot of action going on in that apartment.
Wait, like
The
cinema,
suspense in Darwin for
no,
Murder.
okay, in cinema, action is like movement.
Yeah, like did you not see that struggle when they were fighting? If you haven't seen our podcast on Darwin for Murder, make sure to go and watch that now.
So
When
you
they're
like looking at
fighting,
one scene when they're like where the cutting gets like slightly fast, and then you call it an action movie.
yeah.
Okay, well that's your opinion. That's your incorrect
And I
opinion.
watched like a film with like another one of my friends called Limitless, and that is definitely an actiony
Well, yeah,
movie.
I looked it up. That is an actual action movie.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
all of our like like we really value our listeners, but um, uh, there was some fake news in this podcast.
No, no,
Down
no,
for What is not an action movie.
no.
That's an opinion. That's like your very subjective opinion.
Wait, I forgot what I was saying now.
Well,
Yeah,
the
no,
last couple of
yeah.
movies
So I
you
was gonna
watched.
say, like, I feel like Darwin for Murder was definitely a very suspenseful movie. We can agree on that, right?
Yes, we can. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I feel like
It's One
this
of
was,
Life is not
yeah,
not
this isn't a
necessarily
suspense.
suspenseful movie, is it? Like it's not a suspense.
Yeah, I felt like definitely like action and or suspense movies kind of capture my attention better. And like the couple that I've watched, I'm not really watched that many movies, but
Yeah.
still, I felt like this. I'm definitely not used to this kind of movie, so maybe it didn't do
Well,
so
but yeah, if
much.
you really do watch more of those old movies, then you're just gonna get used to it. That's what I did. Anyway, maybe you're not gonna get used to it. Who knows? But that's how it worked for me. But yeah, most of his other Frank Capra endings, what I was saying is kind of a bit too like always a bit off slightly, and this ending is seriously perfect.
Mm. Do we want to say like what ratings we gave the movie?
Before we do that, I want to talk about the different actors. Did you like James Stewart's performance? Did you like him in this movie?
I mean, I think his performance was very good. Yeah.
I
don't-
absolutely loved him, as I already stated.
Well,
Did
yeah,
you like
he's
him,
your
Marie?
favorite actor.
Yeah, he's
Like,
my favorite actor.
yeah,
Did
I think his performance was good. Yeah, I think all of the characters' performances were very convincing.
Yeah, okay,
Like,
fair enough. Oh yeah, let's talk about the directing. There are a couple of scenes which I find a bit. The direction is just weird in a couple of scenes, including the scene where Uncle Billy gives. By the way, Uncle Billy, played by Thomas Mitchell, great actor, great actor. Like he's in so many good movies and so many like he's a phenomenal actor. Anyway,
mm,
and where he misplaces the money and the camera kind of cuts in and cuts out again. Like, have you noticed that?
no,
It's
honestly
so
not.
weird. It's so weird. Like I don't know what Frank Capra was on that day. Like the cutting is so weird. And then uh there's like a I don't know. Look at
I
this.
don't remember very much of the directing. I guess I wasn't really looking out for it as much. He's got more of the film critique eye. So
I absolutely do. I fully agree with you there.
what other directing
So
points are
that's
there?
why this podcast is such a nice balance because we've got like one expert film critique and one like normal person, like normal average guy. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then the music. I like the music. It's not like
Mm. It's
it's not.
quite
It's not.
it's quite old timey music, I think.
I
But
mean, I like the music.
it suited the show. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't
Mm.
bad. I think I like one of my favorite scores. I don't know, Vertigo. I like Vertigo. I
Mm.
like Psycho. I like many good movie scores. I like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which technically wasn't composed for the movie, but still really well made. But this movie kind of like I wouldn't put it into my top 30 best scores, definitely not. But it gets the job done, and it's doing it pretty
I
well.
think
Yeah.
like my favorite score is probably like Merry-Go-Round of Life. Is that the score name?
Oh yeah. So
Remember from
that's Howl's
like
Moving Castle.
yeah,
Yeah,
from House
yeah.
Moving
That
Castle.
that
That's one of my
definitely
favorites.
is like a more memorable and well. What do
Yeah,
you mean by
that's
memorable?
it.
Like
Kind of
I
sticks
watch
in my
It's
mind.
Wonderful Life every Christmas, so I suppose I would remember that. I know the score of It's Wonderful Life off by heart, but it's definitely like more memorable on one viewing.
Yeah,
And you definitely like when you watch Howl's Moving Castle, you're like the score is amazing. While
yeah,
when you watch It's a Wonderful Life, the score just gets the job done.
yeah. The score just kind of more fits in with the movie, whereas I think in like House Moving Castle, it kind of shines out past the movie itself. House
Yeah.
Moving Castle is great. Would recommend.
Okay, let's get to our ratings. Do you want to start?
Sure.
Great.
So I gave It's a Wonderful Life 8 out of 10 or 4 out of 5 stars. As for me, like the ending was a solid 10 out of 10. But there were parts in the beginning where I was like really bored and like I was thinking, man, this is probably like a 5 or something because
Fair enough.
I was just bored and didn't really want to watch that much. But the ending kind of made up for that a lot, and so I
Fair
gave it
enough.
an
Yeah.
8.
I mean, I suppose if I had watched this movie at a point where I hadn't watched many old movies, like I already was into movies. Like I was already a complete cinephile by the time I watched this movie. Like, so that's why it didn't bother me as much as it has bothered you. But
Hmm.
like if I had just watched it for basic entertainment for the first time, like, and I never watched movies otherwise, I can completely see myself in your situation too. I was in the situation, as I said, when I was like 8. I forgot about it. My mother always tells me, but
You're comparing me to an 8-year-old. Thanks.
Sorry?
You're comparing me to an 8-year-old. Thank you. Mm.
You're welcome. No, but like, no, I was just in that situation of not being like a huge cinephile. You can like, you're not a huge cinephile. You can admit that, right?
You're, yeah, definitely.
But yeah,
Creeping
let's
me
come to my
inside.
rating. We can come to other great Christmas movies in a second, but let's come to this. This podcast is going to take so extremely long. It's already 1 hour and 13 minutes long. It's
Okay.
obviously we're going to edit, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, my favorite Christmas movie, and it's my 5th favorite movie of all time. Just after 2001: A Space Odyssey, Vertigo, Sunrise: A Song of Two Humans, and M. Although I haven't watched M in a very long time, so I won't be able to take this list with a bit of a grain of salt. Anyway, I love it. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Like the first half is like a solid 9 out of 10, and there's some really nice moments. I love the dance floor scene. I love the romance. I love the chemistry between Donna Reed and James Stewart. It's nothing like that completely like really hits you in the beginning, but the second half just absolutely is like a 11 out of 10. Seriously. For me.
Yeah, the second half was really amazing. I agree.
Okay.
Wait, so you gave it a 10 out of 10?
It's my 5th favorite movie. Yes, I gave it a 10 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Let's go to, is there any, like, I would say this is the best Christmas movie of all time. Okay.
I mean, I haven't watched that many Christmas movies, but like
I haven't watched that many either.
I
but
have really big nostalgia for like the Snowman as one movie, and then there's like the follow-up movie to it. I thought it was called The Snowman and the Snow Dog. So the
Yeah.
Snowman is like a more original, older one. Came out in 1982, and the Snowman and the Snow Dog is
How
kind of
old?
like
Wow.
a follow-up that came out in 2012. But I kind of watched both of them when I was younger, and like I have fond memories of both. I'm not sure if they're like massively well, yeah, the Snowman and the Snow Dog wasn't really rated so highly, but it's definitely more of a nostalgia thing for me.
I see. Fair enough. Yeah. By the way, I still have so much to talk about, though. Oh goodness, this is going to be such a long podcast. I apologize to all of our listeners, but I've got a very important thing to say. Like, obviously, the entire plot, like, I don't think it's supposed to be taken literally, but rather on a metaphorical level.
Suicide is bad.
In other words, rather than like him just before committing suicide, rather than an actual angel coming down, helping him, and then like showing him how the world, like winking to God, say like, "Can you please toss around like a parallel universe and teleport us there," something, and like rather than taking this on a literal level, I always think about it as a metaphorical level. Essentially, he stands on the bridge, and then like before he tries to commit suicide, he's thinking about all of these things. He's thinking about how his life would be, and then he kind of like realizes how terrible everything would be if he hadn't lived. So I think it's like all in his brain, and then by the time he's like in his parallel world in his brain, then he realizes like, I better be alive again. Then when the policeman comes, of course, he's like, oh yeah, I am alive. Like I think it's supposed to be taken on a metaphorical level, all of it.
So like he was hallucinating.
Well, not hallucinating, not like he didn't actually walk around or anything, but like I think it's just like a nice way of showing this metaphor. Like that's what many movies do.
I think I'm not sure if it really matters too much whether it's a metaphor, whether it's like literally meant to be that way in the film
doesn't matter.
universe.
No,
It's like
it doesn't.
it's all with the goal of portraying like the idea of like life is very valuable and suicide is bad.
Yeah.
I feel like I can say it in like a better way, but I don't know how. That's
Yeah,
kind of like the goal of the
I
movie.
think it's just a nice way of showing that, and I think it's the best Christmas movie of all time. Christmas movie of all time. My second favorite Christmas movie, by the way, is The Shop Around the Corner, also starring James Stewart and also out of the 40s, and it's a romantic comedy, and it's just like it's sweet. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
It's also a 10 out of 10 for me. Anyway, is there anything else?
I watched like the Muppets like Christmas Carol movie. That was pretty good.
I see. Okay.
Anyway, anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. Like the minute we stop recording, I'm like, oh yeah, and I want you to say this and that and this, but I think we can wrap it up.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Make sure to leave a like, smash that subscribe button, smash the bell, follow both of us in Letterboxd and IMDb. Can you follow people on IMDb?
Well,
yeah, sure.
No, you can't. Go ahead.
It's
try.
just try to follow us on IMDb if you can. If you can, that's fine. Yeah. And yeah, be looking forward to the next video, which may be on a very, very different kind of movie. Possibly. Depends.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. So, well, see you. See you. Have a nice Christmas, I guess. If you're
Goodbye.
watching this on Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.